We've seen the headlines.
It's one of the worst shootings in Vancouver history.
Vicious drug gangs in British Columbia. The shocker is who's in those gangs. Middle-class suburban boys are doing the killing.
Freaks me out because that's getting a little close to home.
Suddenly it was like, wow, anybody can get killed.
I'm Anne-Marie McDonald. This Doc Zone is all about the gangster next door. The image of beautiful, laid-back British Columbia has taken a beating. The blessings of geography embody a curse. Vancouver is perfectly positioned as headquarters for the illegal drug industry. And where there are drugs, there are gangs. And a thriving gangster culture that pulls in not just the disenfranchised, but the entitled. BC's bloodiest gang war was waged by young men who came from the most middle class of families. Police are now heavily armed against the gangs of Vancouver, aware that they're extremely violent and have no scruples about turning a quiet neighborhood into a battleground.
I stepped out the door and I heard 4 gunshots, bang, 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 and then stopped.
I just got off at work, so it's something I don't want to come home to.
We're not going to move. We've been there 30 years. Where we're going to go?
BC's game-changing gang war escalated from this near-fatal shooting in 2006 on a quiet suburban cul-de-sac into an explosion of seemingly random public violence. All the more shocking because these were new types of gangs playing by different rules. The gangsters weren't easy to categorize, nor were their victims. This was everybody's gang war, and the new generation of gangster could be anybody's next-door neighbor.
A lot of these people came from middle class, upper middle class communities. Parents worked, parents had good jobs, lived in nice houses. And these kids bought into that lifestyle very quickly, and you know, I think the one common denominator is nothing got in their way.
Police say there are more than 130 organized crime groups in BC, from adolescent wannabes to the invisible big bosses, too smart and experienced to indulge personally in public bloodletting. It was a rivalry between 2 ambitious young gangs on the rise that would spark the terrible violence. The stage was already set.
If you say what was the driving force behind all of that gang development, it is very clearly, absolutely, it is drug production.
It's all location, location, location. Vancouver's harbor is handy, and unlike the US, Canada does not prohibit bulk importing of ingredients used to manufacture chemical drugs like methamphetamine. Temperate, secluded, and laid back about pot, the Lower Mainland has always been a great place to grow marijuana, the core currency in BC's drug trade, annually bringing in billions of untaxable revenue.
One operation that was taken down in Chilliwack here recently, I think it was 15,000 plants. We did the math on that and estimated that they would have had to have made $27 million before they got caught.
With the border so tantalizingly close, gangs even hide drugs in the cargoes of unsuspecting truckers. Altogether, the Vancouver area is perfect for the export of marijuana and the import of guns and cocaine.
There's an insatiable appetite for the use of drugs here.
Dan Mallow still bears the markings of his 17 years undercover. He knows the gang story from the inside out.
There's sort of a laissez-faire attitude, really, in British Columbia about the use of drugs. And people don't connect the fact that if they use a gram of cocaine on Saturday, that goes to a gang member who eventually sells a number of grams of cocaine, who makes enough money to put a contract on somebody who dies in a parking lot of a mall.
Witnesses say at least 2 vehicles cornered the driver of this pickup and with rapid fire peppered him with bullets in this busy parking lot full of shoppers.
People were running around the store saying, "Get down, get down." People were grabbing their kids and hiding them behind, displays and stuff.
BC's gang problem isn't new. Like the Pacific Ocean, it just keeps coming. And every now and again, there's a rogue wave.
I think in the 1980s we had some named street gangs. There was Los Diablos, there was Lotus Gang. They were primarily new immigrant kids that were tussling with each other, literally on school grounds.
Well, there's another guy there with the pink pants. Now I recognize him, right?
Vancouver Sun reporter Kim Boland has become an expert on Vancouver gangs. Everybody talks to her, from top cops to hitmen.
And what's the guy's name?
The gang beat grew out of extensive Indo-Canadian contacts Kim made while reporting on the 1985 Air India bombing. In the 90s, Vancouver gangs were disproportionately Indo-Canadian and publicly violent.
And they were literally on TV cameras shouting at each other in the streets, "We're coming for you, we're coming for you."
And basically, I just want these guys to know, you got another thing coming, bitch. I'm still around.
All those murders remain unsolved, but it really was the genesis of this new age of gangs in Vancouver.
Self-destruction, along with a determined push from police and the community, all but shut down the Indo-Canadian gangs. In the process, Vancouver police learned a thing or two about how to get gangsters off city streets. Now, on a Friday night, police cruise the downtown club area looking for people with gang associations. And Detective Dawn Richards is a walking search engine.
Hold on a second. Hey, Mr. Curtis, how are you tonight?
I remember me from 10 years ago.
I remember you, and I know you too.
Good, man.
You know what? Considering that we're out, and I remember you and know you guys, you're not going to any clubs tonight.
I'm a changed man, though.
Oh, I don't think so.
See, one phone.
One phone. So you can't be a drug dealer anymore because you only have one phone? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
The phone reference speaks to the unique way Vancouver gangs are organized, not by neighborhood, but through drug distribution networks managed by cell phone. Dial-a-dope. Police may not be able to stop the supply of drugs, but hope they can keep a lid on the violence by getting gangsters off the streets, making Vancouver a no-fun zone.
Outside, right now. Outside. Outside. We're just going outside.
In the early 2000s, while authorities were busy with Indo-Canadian gangsters and with a crackdown on the Hells Angels, an hour's drive away in the Fraser Valley, another group was getting organized. Founded by Clayton Roosh, a local kid from a seemingly happy family, the UN Gang was proudly multicultural and quietly linked to the Asian triads.
There's still a bit of a mystery as to how Clay Roosh had those relationships with sort of bigger Asian organized crime figures, and whether the relationships came about after he formed the UN Gang or before he formed the UN Gang.
But they're there.
They're there.